Good afternoon, and welcome to the Prince George's Community Federal Credit Union 2018 Lunch and Learn series. Today's presentation is brought to you in partnership with Coffee, a nationwide financial coaching and education center focusing on improving the financial health of individuals. As the premier credit union of Prince George's County, they have joined with Coffee to expand their mission of providing quality financial education to their community and lending insight into credit management, home ownership, and money management. Prince George's Community Federal Credit Union is a full service financial institution serving anyone who lives, works, or worships in Prince George's County, Maryland. They are one of the county's best kept secrets with competitive loan and savings rates as well as discounts to national retailers. They currently serve over 16,000 members in the area and welcome you to come and experience the benefits of membership as well. Later on in the presentation, I will display their contact information and answer any specific questions you may have concerning your financial needs. It's not too late to invite your friends and colleagues to join today's webinar. You should have received an email about 60 minutes ago, and in that email is a link that you can pass along. Please note that today's webinar is live and all phone lines have been muted. If you have questions, please feel free to type it into the question box on the right-hand side of your menu bar. All questions are private and will be addressed at the end of our discussion. We will be offering a free 60-minute financial coaching session with the completion of 3 webinars. More information will be given at the end of today's presentation. Lastly, a recording of today's session will be available later on today. Details will be sent to your email following the presentation. And with that, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Charmaine Williams, and I will be your presenter today. So today's webinar is all about the savvy traveler. Learn how to travel, especially on a budget, which is a great thing to do. Now, as you can see on your screen, according to Travel and Leisure, these 10 are in the top 50 places to travel in 2018. Now, they're not in any particular order, but just a few from the list. Now, I'm pretty sure that you're all wondering, how are we supposed to get to some of these places on a budget? Well, some places may take longer than others, but with some planning and saving, you can travel to any one of these great destinations. We all know the financial value of travel. Plane tickets cost a lot of money, as do hotels and meals. So when planning a new vacation, the first thing to do is decide what is it you really want. What are your goals for the getaway? Is this a small trip or extended? What part of the year are you aiming for? And how many people are going with you? If you're bringing family and friends with you, it is important that everyone share the same goals for the trip, or else someone is going to have a bad time. The key to optimal vacation spending is, you guessed it, planning and budgeting. When you're sitting down to start the planning process, you need to start asking yourself some questions to figure out what you need versus what you want. The first thing is decide who's paying. Talk beforehand about how to handle the bills. Money is notorious for being a sticky family issue. So figuring out who pays for what must be done in advance. Otherwise, expect hurt feelings that will harden like a rock. Remember, some of your children might not earn what others can afford. Even if you're footing the bill for rooms at an expensive resort, remember that the price of a cheeseburger is usually expensive, upwards of $25. That's why cruises and all-inclusive resorts are a good idea. They create equality among all family members, and if you want to spring for that extra bottle of wine, then no one will complain. Condominiums are also a great cost-saving way to create some budget wiggle room. You might even consider getting 2 condos so you can separate the reserved room from the rambunctious. There are a number of rental websites to help you choose the perfect house, condo, or apartment, including vacation rentals by owner, HomeAway, and Airbnb, but I'll talk about those a little bit later. The next is to choose a destination that's going to suit all interests. So You want to figure out exactly where you're thinking of going. Are you willing to compromise? So, for example, many spring breakers and other people seeking fun, sun, and sand flock to Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Key West, or Miami Beach for their beach vacation. Florida has over 1,200 miles of coastline, and some of the lesser known beaches are way nicer than Key West. If the destination is beach, why not look at Clearwater or Destin and save hundreds on your hotel while getting whiter, prettier sand? And those are locations in Florida as well. If you're looking to do some sightseeing, well, what is close to you? Does your state have any landmarks in it? Once you've decided on a destination, have every member of the family write down what they want to do there, whether it's learning to paddleboard or going on a hike or seeing the world's largest ball of twine, whatever it is. You guys have to plan it together and figure it out. The next thing is time frame. The time frame can be one of the biggest money savers. If you can travel out of season, you can save huge amounts of money. For example, going to the mountains in Colorado in summer versus winter, or to use Florida one more time, would you believe the cheapest time of year to go to the beach in Florida is in the summer? Our high season is in the winter months. Okay, that's when the snowbirds come into Florida. So if you can take the heat, plan a beach trip between June and August. Conversely, it is very much the opposite for the theme parks in Florida, which are family oriented. If you want to do theme parks and you could make it during the school year when most of kids are not off or during the week, you'll fight less lines, pay much less for hotels, and then you can also check out different states or locations for peak seasons to be sure of what will work for you. And then next is how are you getting there, which we'll talk more about a bit later. But you should consider what would be the best option for you. Depending on where you're going, is driving feasible? Or are you going somewhere in which you will need a car? Now, remember, if you fly to get to these places, you're going to need to account for public transportation or car rentals, and that can jack the prices up. So, now I'm going to talk a bit about vacation budgeting. Again, planning ahead can turn a good vacation into a great one. If you know where you want to travel or that you do want to travel sometime this year, you need to start saving and budgeting from now, unless you want to travel as soon as the kids get out of school, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But if you have some time between now and your trip, obviously you want to start planning and saving as early as possible. About 8 to 10% of your total yearly budget can go towards fun spending like travel without causing heartache. You can, of course, increase this amount by cutting in other areas, but don't cut from your necessities. You want to cut from your discretionary expenses, things that you can afford to live without. When planning your trip, these are the major things that you need to account for when planning how much you will need. A, how are you getting there? B, how are you getting around? C, where are you staying? D, what are you eating? And E, what are you doing and what are you buying? Okay? So those are the things that you need to account for. Now, where you can compromise in these areas to make the trip more affordable overall. Let us take a look at some different options. Look to your financial institution and perhaps set up a vacation account or a club account for your vacation funds. Do the math. How much is it going to cost to get to your destination? Rent a car if necessary, depending on where you're going, or public transportation, food, accommodations, etc. And then figure out between now and the time that you want to take your trip how much you need to put aside every 2 weeks, every week, every month, however, and set that aside in your vacation account. So now I'm going to talk about how you're getting there. And the first way I'm going to talk about is flying. Now, there are pros and cons when it comes to flying. There are pros and cons to everything. Okay, so some of the pros are time. Flying can greatly shorten the length of time that it takes to get to your destination. While car, buses, or trains may take you hours or even days to arrive at your ideal location, a plane can get you there in a fraction of that. Now, obviously, the time savings becomes more significant the further away you travel. There's also convenience, okay? Because travel by air takes a lot of responsibility away from you. They load up your luggage, they worry about directions, and you arrive safely without you having to do too much other than read a book or take a nap or perhaps watch a movie. Sometimes you can even get online and do other things while you're in the air. There's no risk of car accidents, traffic, slippery roadways during inclement weather, and it's hard to deny that flying is extremely convenient most of the time. The next pro, is wear and tear. This is a huge benefit to flying. All those miles you put on your car is ticking down its life. Maybe not significantly, but if you travel often or go on road trips, the fact is you're going to wear down your car a lot faster. This can turn into complications down the line. Your tires wear out quicker, etc., and those things are not cheap. Now, some cons for flying is airport hassles. The airport itself is not always a fun experience, especially with the increases in security. We're seeing longer lines than theme park rides. Between the pat downs and the body scanners, it's a pretty uncomfortable situation. Plus, then you need to walk around barefoot, not ideal for the sandal community. On top of that, you have to arrive basically 2 hours early just to make it to your flight on time. Now, if all of this isn't a big deal, and then perhaps you may have to deal with a layover. Layovers are one of the most annoying situations you can deal with when flying. You arrive at an airport, and then A, you may have very little time to get between gates to run from one gate to the next before you get trapped in a strange city without your luggage. Or B, layovers, can last sometimes a couple of hours or overnight. Now remember, if you have a layover and you're trying to get to your destination sooner rather than later, depending on the time frame, what are you saving? Okay? The next is cost. The cost of flying has a major impact on your vacation options. If it's just you traveling, then flying may be cheaper than putting gas in the car, wear and tear, stopping for hotels and food, etc. But as you start to add vacationers, the cost starts getting exponentially larger. But again, it depends. If flying is going to take a few hours versus a few days, you're going to save money on food and hotels during that few day trip. Okay? But what about a family of five? Depending on your destination, this could easily be over a couple $1,000s in just airfare. The next con is no control. When you're flying, you have no control over your situation. You can't stop wherever or whenever you want. You can't use your phone. There's no detours. You don't really get to decide how much luggage you want to bring unless you want to pay an extra couple $100s for extra bags. And if you're hungry during the trip, your food options are usually extremely limited and expensive. Okay? You can't exactly bring certain items into the airport with you. You have to buy them there, which are pricey as well, mainly liquids. So all of those things can be an issue. Now, typically speaking, it's best to book your flight approximately 2 months before you wish to fly. Another thing to check out, and this is just a tip, is booking your tickets separately. Now, I've done this on numerous occasions. I'll check the price for the round trip ticket, and then I'll also check the price for the one ways going and coming back. And sometimes it's happened more than once that the two one-way tickets work out to be cheaper than booking the one round trip. And another tip also is if you have a Gmail account, a Google email account, you can Google your flight, where you're going, when you want to leave, etc. And then you can track that flight. And then you'll get an email or a notification letting you know if the price is decreasing or if the price is going up. That has also worked for me as well. I've saved a couple $100s doing it that way too. I get the email, it lets you know, well, the price is going to go up in the next 24 hours, or there's an expected decrease by 31% on this flight. So those are things to look into as well. If you have a Google account, that's one good thing that you can do. Google your flight, put in the dates and times that you want to go, pick the flight that you're looking at, and then track it. and then you can go from there. It'll let you know everything that's happening with that flight and also let you know if seats are selling out as well. So, something good to check into. The next way to get there is by driving. Now, I love this. I have a coworker, her and her family drive everywhere. It's amazing. Okay? They've gone everywhere in their car. And again, some of the pros for driving is that it puts you in complete control. So, driving gives you full control over your trip. And if for some reason you need to stop, turn back, make a detour, you are quite literally in the driver's seat. You can go at your own speed, you can determine the route, when you start the journey, when you're going to begin your journey home. The only schedule associated with driving is the one that you create. And not to mention, there's no limit on what you can and cannot bring. Okay? Driving, another pro is saving money for large families. Depending on where you're going and how far away it is, the smaller your party, the more expensive it is to drive versus fly. So if you have a larger family and you can't afford all those plane tickets, driving would be the way to go. Another pro is the potential for sightseeing. By driving cross country, you'll be able to visit states you've never seen before, sample local foods and cultures. It can be a very immersive experience. You might discover things that you didn't even know about. So that's some of the pros when it comes to driving to your destination. Now, when it comes to cons, the first one is time. Okay. How long is it going to take you to get to where you're going? Sometimes driving out of state seems like it's taking forever. I've driven out of the state of Florida and I never thought I would make it to Georgia. I thought it was the longest drive ever. Driving in, okay, cool, but driving out, I didn't think I was going to get anywhere. So if you're limited to a short trip, driving may not be really practical. If you're leaving for the weekend on an out of state trip, it may be out of the question to drive. But if it's your only option, then you could do it. The next thing is wear and tear. So don't forget if you're using your own vehicle, putting all those extra miles on it, wearing down your tires, etc. That means that any damages to the car or miles that go on it are on you. If you wear out or pop a tire, if you break down on the road, any maintenance that comes with extended driving is all on you. If you lease your car, you will be rapidly approaching your mileage limit. That's another thing to look into as well. And then the last con is more responsibility. When you are driving, the responsibility is now 100% on you. You have to worry about directions, traffic, weather, any time constraints you may have placed on the trip, finding rest stops, bathrooms, and of course the lives of whomever you are taking with you. You can't just sit back and relax. You can't close your eyes and wake up at your destination. You have to stay focused for the entire time. And if there's bad weather, you now have to worry about whether or not your car can handle that. So, those are some of the cons when it comes to driving to your destination. If you're taking a train or a bus, again, that can be pricey depending on how large your family is. You don't have the added responsibility of being 100% responsible for everyone, but is it comfortable? Some of those buses are small. Sitting on a train for hours is not the best experience. Believe me, I know I've done it. I've taken a train from New York to Canada, which wasn't a crazy long train ride. Yes, it was more hours than if I had just driven, but I was uncomfortable. I couldn't sleep. It was noisy. It smelled funny. So, those are the things that you need to think about when you're planning your trip. So, we've planned our trip. We want to know how we're getting around. We figured out how we're getting there. We say we flew, okay, just for the sake of discussion. Now, you're standing in the airport trying to figure out how you're going to get to your hotel, and when you do, how are you getting around? So, what are your options? Well, it all depends on where you are. In big major cities, it is extremely practical to walk at least a little bit and use public transportation. But what if that isn't an option? You're left with either renting a car or, relying on taxis or ride sharing, etc. So renting a car can definitely be a good option if you have a lot of ground to cover. It gives you the freedoms to do anything you want to do, anytime you want to do it. Once again, it puts the control back in your hands. There are many car rental centers, so it's really important that you do your research ahead of time to see which one has the best rates. Always, if you can, book ahead of time. Don't show up in the middle of the night desperate for a car. I know friends who've done this and it did not end well. So we're going to talk about the costs associated with renting a car. Again, this is going to depend heavily on the size of your party. If it's just one or two of you with a few bags, you can get away with an economy sized car from anywhere between $10 to $70 a day, depending on the car rental place you go with. Sometimes you get specials for as low as $8 a day. So that's something that you're going to want to look into as well. Now, if you're looking for a bigger vehicle, you could be going up to anywhere from $55 to $75 a day. And if you want to ride in style with a luxury car, that's going to bump you up to about over 100. Now, keep in mind that this does not include security deposit that they hold on your credit cards, any additional insurances, or any gas they may charge you. And you may also be responsible for tolls. So those are all things that you have to factor in. Now, a few quick pros and cons of renting a car. First pro is freedom. Like I said, you can go anywhere you want to. You don't have to use public transportation. That's another one. Maybe more practical if you're covering a lot of distance. Now, some of the cons, it may be pretty expensive depending on the situation and how long you're traveling for. Another thing is total responsibility. Remember when you were responsible for your own car? Times that by 10 when you're renting someone else's. And then con, having to worry about tolls. So again, it all depends. Um, Another tip for renting cars is do your homework, do your research, see which car rentals are available where you're headed. So when you get to the airport, there are a lot of rental agencies that are usually on site. Another tip for cheaper rental cars is looking for rental companies that are off site, that are not directly in the airport. They'll pick you up with a shuttle, take you to the car rental place. You may get a better deal. I recently just got back from Toronto. I was looking all over online for rental cars. Expedia, I found some good prices. Through our company, we go through tickets at work. There was some good prices. But all of the prices were for on-site airport rental agencies. I got a car, a cute Jeep, a Nissan Rogue, decent size, fit everybody's luggage, everybody fit comfortably, had brand new vehicle, 2018 vehicle we got to rent for $8 a day. And then we had insurance, and that was it. So it ended up being less for me to rent from an off-site car rental agency than from an on-site at the airport car rental agency. So those are things that you're going to want to look into as well. But if you're not interested in renting a car, is public transportation an option for you? Now, in some cities, it's almost mandatory. So, New York. If you were to be going to New York, staying in Manhattan, it doesn't really make sense for you to rent a car when there's subways and buses every minute, there's yellow cabs all over the place. Renting a car and having to pay for parking is ridiculous. Toronto can be the same way as well. Subways, buses, streetcars, etc. Yes, I was in Toronto, but I was in the more urban. I wasn't in the city. I was more rural, not rural, excuse me, um, more out of the city in Toronto. And I got to use the car. I drove all the way to Niagara Falls and all over the place. So it came in handy for me. When we did go downtown Toronto, we parked the car in a parking lot and then took transportation everywhere else we needed to go because of all the one-way streets, the buses, etc. So depending on where you're going, that may be public transportation may really work for you. The next thing I'm going to talk about is ride sharing. In most major cities, they have Uber, Lyft, and others. And you have access to these by downloading an app on your phone. You set up your current location and where you want to go. You can also have the app linked to your credit or debit card. And then when the driver receives your request for pickup, you're given a picture of him or her, the name, what car they're driving, and their phone number, so that way you know who's coming to get you. Now, the major benefit to this is that there's no physical money actually exchanged. You can tip through the apps etc. You don't have to worry about cash and, someone taking the money from you. Many of the drivers have water, candy, cell phone chargers, etc. in their car. And you'll also find that their rates are cheaper than a cab. Usually, most time during the day, they're cheaper than a cab. They have what they call peak moments as well, like if everybody's getting off work or everybody's going to work during the holidays, a lot of people are traveling, they may have peak moments and their fees may go up. But most of the time, they're cheaper than the taxi cab. And because these ride sharing places are highly regulated, their cars are usually required to be kept at a certain cleanliness standard. Okay? So, again, in most major cities in America, they have Uber and Lyft, and it beats the cost of a cab significantly. Business Insider did a report to determine the rate differences per major city. So, for example, if you travel to Los Angeles, you're going to pay close to $20 for a taxi for driving 5 miles. With Uber, you would pay less than 10 for those same 5 miles. We see the same variance in San Diego, $21 to a taxi, $11 to Uber. In Atlanta, you can ride 5 miles in a taxi for about $18 versus $10 with Uber. So there are some price savings and price differences between taxi cabs and ride sharing. So that's something to look into, especially if you're staying in a larger city. So, on our next topic, we're going to talk about where you will be staying. Okay, you've got your ride, you've got your locale, you figured out how you're getting there, etc. So, where are you sleeping? The standard norm is a hotel, but is it the best option? Okay, is it the cheapest option? So, we're going to explore that. So, we just talked about Uber and Lyft as an alternative to taxis. Now, I'd like to talk to you about sites like Airbnb and HomeAway as the alternative to hotels. So, Airbnb is a room sharing program. That's how they describe it. And basically, the way it works is people who have extra rooms in their apartment, home, or condo list that room on Airbnb for travelers to rent. In some cases, they will rent out the whole house. You, as the traveler, are typically given full access to the kitchen, bathrooms, laundry rooms, etc. And it usually is significantly cheaper than an actual hotel. Now, not everybody is going to be extremely comfortable with the idea of Airbnb. And for that person, hotels and resorts still exist. And because hotels are the most common option, we'll discuss that last. The next is HomeAway. This is a vacation rental marketplace with more than 1 million vacation rental listings in over 190 countries. It is operated through 40 websites in 22 languages, and the company offers the most comprehensive selection of rentals for families and groups to find accommodations, such as cabins, condos, in some cases castles, villas, barns, and farmhouses. So anything that you can possibly think of, HomeAway would have it. And that's also maybe cheaper, especially for a larger group, than if everybody were to book a room at a hotel. Okay. Um, like I said, I used to live in New York, and I would travel from New York to Miami once a year, a bunch of friends. All of us would travel from New York to Miami, and we would all put up money to rent one big house together. And it ended up working cheaper than if we had all gotten rooms. So we ended up paying the price what it would cost for one night in a hotel in a house for a whole week, then it would, and then that same price we would be paying per night in an actual hotel. So it ended up being better for us. So you want to look into things like that. Okay. So now I'm going to talk to you a bit about hotel savings because this is important. Obviously, you want to stick to your budget for those of you who don't want to rent someone's home or don't want to rent a room from Airbnb, etc. And you want to do the traditional hotel or resort. You want to stick to your budget. You've planned where you want to go. You've planned how you're getting there, how you're going to get around once you're getting there, and how much accommodations should cost you. So you know how much you have to spend on your vacation. You want to stick to your budget. Okay, so if you're finding hotel rooms for super expensive and it's taking you out of your budget, you don't want to book that way. Shop around and then sometimes be flexible. Maybe you wanted to travel the first week in June, but the hotel and perhaps airlines, perhaps you can get a package for the second week in June can save you a couple hundreds of dollars. So sometimes you may need to be flexible. Obviously, choose your location wisely. If, for example, you are traveling to New York City, perhaps you stay in a hotel in Brooklyn rather than staying in Manhattan. Or perhaps you don't stay in Midtown, but you stay downtown or uptown. Things like that. Choose your location wisely to help save you money, but still gives you access to the things that you want to do. If you can bundle it, bundle it. They have great websites like bookit.com where you can get your flight, your car, and your hotel all together, and they give you great prices. Even sometimes through bookit.com, you can do a payment plan for your hotel. So maybe you've booked your airline tickets, you reserved your car, you're going to pay on your hotel. You can pay a little bit until it's paid off. If the hotel chain that you're going to has reward programs, join them. You stay in a hotel for a certain amount of times, you may get a free night or a free 2 nights. You never know. Join their programs. Find out what is included. Do they have continental breakfast? What services do they offer you? Is it free to use the gym? Is there a pool? Find out what's included. Again, find out what is not included. Okay, they may charge you for certain things that you thought came standard with the room. So figure that out. And then always check for discounts. Again, shop around. You don't want to pay the first price that you see. Reserve your room, but before you start reserving rooms, make sure there's free cancellation. You can reserve at one hotel, have another room at another hotel, have another room at another hotel, and then keep checking those hotels. Check their sites, check online, Expedia, Priceline, hotels.com, wherever. If you see the price go down for the same room, make another reservation and cancel the previous one. But always make sure that the cancellations are free. Don't go reserving a bunch of rooms at a bunch of hotels that are going to charge you for a night if you cancel a reservation. This way, you know to yourself you're getting the best price. It always pays to shop around. And also, if you're a member of like BJ's or Sam's Club or Costco, they have travel sites as well. And sometimes on your hotels and even your car rentals, you can get up to 25% off the total. So you want to look into that stuff as well. AAA offers discounts on car rentals. You may see some flights for cheap. They offer discounts on tickets into theme parks and for movies and amusement parks. So those are the things that you want to look into as well to find ways to help save you some money on your vacation because we're trying here to travel smart. We're trying to stay within our budget, and doing all of these different things is what's going to help you in the long run. So, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is eating cheap while traveling. So, if you're anything like me, traveling is about one thing: food. If I don't enjoy the local cuisine, you can bet your bottom dollar I will not be back. So, I'm going to give you guys a few tips on eating cheap when you travel. So the first thing to do is plan ahead. So for example, if you're going to Maine, you're probably going to want lobster. So start looking up restaurants from now. Check out menus and prices online. Look for Groupons or discounts ahead of time so that you are prepared when you get there. Now again, I just mentioned hotels. This is a second tip. Take advantage of your hotel. This is a huge one. If your hotel has a kitchen, try and cook some meals, something small, something light, maybe eat breakfast in the room. Or if they have a continental breakfast, eat that there. You can save yourself money on at least one meal for the day. Okay? The next is be aware of tourist traps. Okay, these often equate to jacked up prices. Best thing that you can do is ask the locals where to get the best place for food. Where is the best place to grab an affordable bite? The local hole in the wall will likely give you more bang for your buck compared to resorts and fancy high priced restaurants, especially in touristy areas. Now, this next tip isn't always applicable, but many restaurants have reward programs. So if you're looking to grab an easy meal at a chain restaurant, Go to one with a rewards program to save money. You may get a free appetizer or a free dessert. Those are things that could help you. Maybe you'll get free drinks, or maybe you'll get a two for one drink. Those are things that you need to look into as well. Just like you would do at home, there are plenty of opportunities for a glass of wine before you leave the hotel or when you return. Buying a bottle of wine or some beers from the grocery store and keeping them in your mini fridge at the hotel is going to be significantly cheaper than a $15 glass of wine at a restaurant. So again, perfect example. Me, like I said, I went to Toronto a little while ago. I went to the 360 restaurant at the CN Tower. Glasses of wine at that restaurant, the highest glass for a glass was $25. Okay, that was the highest price that I saw for a glass of wine, $25. I didn't necessarily need wine with my meal. So I just had a soda, but these are the things that you need to look into. Now, this next tip is a bit of a tough one, but if you're planning to go to Disney World or Disneyland or something similar, try not to eat at the park itself. Is there any way that you can eat before? Can you eat after? Can you throw some granola bars or snacks in your bag? Because park food is fun and tasty, but it's usually very overpriced. Okay? I love theme parks, but eating at the parks or eating at the restaurants at the parks just isn't practical. It's very expensive. And then lastly, you want to check online for daily deals and coupons for restaurants, grocery stores, and bars. So Yelp, Groupon, Living Social, sites like that, they're all great. Coupons can also be found at your hotel, the airport, bus or train stations, and any other location that caters to tourists. So those are a few ways to eat on the cheap while you're traveling. The next is saving money on entertainment. So, okay, you've landed, you've rented your car, you're at your hotel, and hopefully your belly is full. All of these expenses, and we haven't even gotten to the fun part yet. So let's figure out that and then what we're going to do and what we want to do to enjoy our vacation. So remember from the very beginning, when you're planning your vacation, you have to be specific about what you want. We talked about this earlier. Why are you traveling? Are you looking for relaxation, romance, family fun, sightseeing? When you decide what you want out of the trip, you can plan your entertainment around it. So, if you and your husband or wife are looking for a relaxing, romantic getaway, go back to the resort idea where you can save money on entertainment because everything is included. If you go to an all inclusive resort, everything's right there. They've got spa, pools, most likely a beach if it's in a tropical location, food, drinks, everything is right there. Now, if it's family fun to an amusement park, you know to allocate a lot of your entertainment resources toward the theme parks and to try not to spend too much money in the off hours. So research your destination and find out what it has to offer. A perfect example is Atlanta, Georgia. I have family in Atlanta, so I visit from time to time. But of course, I don't want to be stuck in the house the whole time. So the great thing about Atlanta is a lot of the interesting spots are also restaurants. So you get two goals accomplished for the price of one. And if you're planning on going sightseeing, you want to plan a route ahead of time to minimize the cost of traveling to spots. So find out what you can do for free. Your hotel's pool, gym, or recreation rooms are usually free. The beach is free. Most large national parks are pretty much free, other than paying perhaps to park the car or to get in. Maybe there's a small fee. If you're in California and you want to see the Hollywood sign, Griffith Park can easily turn into a very cheap all day endeavor that allows you to see the Hollywood sign. And taking pictures with your phone is also free. And, it's okay to think outside of the box. So let's go back to Atlanta. If anybody's a big fan of The Walking Dead, that's filmed in Georgia. In fact, you can actually find maps online of tons of historic locations from the show and drive to them. If all else fails, keep it simple. Now I'm going to talk to you guys about souvenirs. You go away on vacation, you feel obligated to bring back stuff for coworkers, family who couldn't make it, etc. And this is one of the largest expenses that people have when they're on vacation. Okay, so now while this is fun, I definitely think that it can get a little bit excessive. So hopefully that we can suggest some ideas to reduce this expense so that you have more money for fun activities. The first thing is window shop. Try window shopping instead. Let's be real. You can't buy quite literally you can buy quite literally anything online. Okay? So if you find a store that you don't have in your hometown, take note of it. Take a picture of the items you want, the name, the SKU, whatever. Then look for it on sites like Amazon or eBay later. I'm pretty sure you'll find it more likely than not cheaper online anyways. The next thing is thrift shops. Now, this may sound pretty tacky, but think about it. If you want a Los Angeles t-shirt or a I Heart New York baseball cap, you're probably going to spend 25 to $40, if not more, on it in a tourist store. So why not find it at a local thrift shop, which would most likely absolutely have these items, and pay like $4 for it? Honestly, is it really worth it? And who's going to know about it anyways? Okay? 25 to $40 for a t-shirt, you can probably get it at the thrift shop. All you have to do is wash it, throw it on, and you're good to go. Think natural, okay? Natural souvenirs can be a good choice, especially if you're traveling to a national park, resort, or beach. If you're into foliage, you can take rare and exotic flowers and dry and press them, or collect pine cones, seashells, sand dollars, or any other interesting things, depending on where you are. And then lastly, you want to get crafty. Remember, things like scrapbooking. It's a fun way to keep memories. Memories are free. Take a ton of pictures. They are worth far more than overpriced trinkets. Those are some ways that can save you money. So, I've talked all about picking a destination, figuring out how you're getting there, figuring out how you're getting around, where you're staying, etc. If you haven't been planning and the kids are going to be out of school soon and you haven't done any planning as for what you're going to do, then this next section is for you. So, no doubt you're familiar with the staycation phenomenon. In case you've been out of the loop or perhaps on a long vacation, a staycation is a budget savvy, stay local version of the old fashioned vacation. And it's become so popular that the word was added to the dictionary. So, if you look it up, it's going to be in there. Now, a little bit more statistics for you. According to a Rasmussen report, 58% of vacation goers said economic conditions were forcing them to cut back on their vacation spending. Many travelers are embracing the concept of vacationing near home and taking advantage of free or inexpensive activities in their area, meanwhile enjoying quality family time without the stress of travel. So, as I stated earlier on in the first slide, Shanghai, China is one of the top places to go in 2018. But a 1 week trip to Shanghai can cost over $4,000 for a family of four. I looked it up. Now, mind you, there was no planning. I looked up next week for a week vacation, and it was over $4,000 for four people. So you may want to use that money for something else, or you may think that it's too much to spend. But whatever the reason, a staycation may be the thing to consider. Now, again, I'm sure some of you haven't been planning your vacation as of yet, so a staycation may be in the cards. And with a little research, you can find so many things to do in your city. So, for any great staycation or to have a successful staycation, there are some things that you're going to want to do. So, obviously, pick start and end dates and plan activities. Scheduling is critical to a successful vacation near home. It's the best way to ensure you spend your time off on fun and not on routine activities and chores. So set solid start and end dates and brainstorm and schedule activities you'd like to try before your actual staycation begins. This is the perfect opportunity to head to your local museum, aquarium, or water park, or to check out that new restaurant downtown. You can also have a day trip. Make a list of the places you'd like to visit within 80 miles of home and plan 1 day trips for your top pick. So, whether you check out antique shops in a tiny town, take a hike at a nearby nature preserve, picnic on the banks of a local lake, or check out the hot spots in the next big city, you'll be enjoying the change of scenery without paying $150 or more per night for a hotel. Another tip is ditch the technology. Put your cell phone away. Limit email interactions to once a day so you can focus on your family and revel in your time off. The only time your cell phone should be in your hand is if you're taking a picture or you're taking a selfie. Get rid of it, okay? And this can allow you to de-wind and help you avoid paying for primetime minutes if you have those. Cell phones and the internet are great for emergencies and information, but they're also your link to responsibilities. And isn't the point of a vacation to take a break from the daily grind? That's what you want to do. Another thing you could do is stay at a local hotel. Prices for passenger air transportation rose 36.3% in the past couple of years. So it's getting very expensive to travel. Meanwhile, the availability of hotel deals is increasing. So if you're craving a break from the routines of home, research local hotels and lodging specials. It can help you achieve that out of world feeling without spending a fortune. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you something really quick that I want you guys to check out. Every city, every county, every town has certain websites that you can go to where you can see, different things to do, different activities. So for this, for example, it's visitprincegeorgescounty.com. So what's going on in Prince George's County, Maryland? It gives you a list of options of things that you can do, places that you can stay. They have Six Flags, the MGM, go see horses. There's golf, museums, skating, shopping, days on the lake. If you're not traveling with kids or you don't have any kids but you want to do something, visit the local wineries and vineyards. There's a whole plethora of things to do. Shows you places to stay, campgrounds and parks, bed and breakfasts. There's, where to dine, the type of cuisine you're looking for. It gives you a lot of different options. You can search for events, travel guides, download their app. With all of these different things for you to do and see, you can experience new things in your own city, in your own backyard that you may not have even known was there. So I'm going to open up the floor to any questions right now and see if anybody wants to ask me anything. Hopefully, you got some good information out of this webinar and you'll start planning your trip. And if you haven't been planning, like I said, you may want to take that staycation and stay close to home. So if you do have a question, it may take you a while to type it. If you could just raise your hand so that I know you want to ask something and I won't move on to the next slide. And if not, okay, we have a question coming. I will give you some time to type that out. If there's any other tips and tricks, comments and concerns, you guys may have some advice on booking travel. Maybe there's ways that you do something that you'd like to share with everyone else. You could also add that into the question box as well, and I could read it for everyone else so that they could know. What do you do when it comes to renting a car or booking a hotel or a resort? How do you plan your flights? Do you do the one way as well? Do you track your flights to see, is there a specific time of day that you like to travel? You know what I'm saying? Usually you can save money on airline tickets if you leave on a Thursday and come back on a Tuesday. Avoid the weekend travel. Your ticket, the price of your flight may be considerably less if you leave during the week instead of trying to leave on a Friday or a Saturday. I've also heard that booking your flight at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning can save you some some money as well. So these are a few things that I've come across, and I have saved some money on an early morning um, flight booking one time, but I don't usually like getting up at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to stare at the computer, so I don't do it very often. But I do the one way. Sometimes it's a lot cheaper, to book 2 one-way tickets than a round trip ticket. And if you track one longer than the other, it might go down considerably in price, and then you could book it and go from there. You had raised your hand, letting me know you had a question, I saw, but I don't see any questions coming through. So, if that is it, will probably put an end to this webinar. Um, I would like to thank you all for attending today's educational webinar. To learn more about Prince George's Community Federal Credit Union or to speak with a member service representative, please visit www.princegeorgescfcu.org. It's on the screen. Or call 800-952-7428 or 301-627-2666. I would like to thank you all again for attending. To schedule your free 60-minute financial coaching session, please call Coffee at 866-459-5165. If you enjoyed today's webinar, please be sure to visit princegeorgescfcu.org/lunch and learn to check out a list of topics for the year. I know they have coming up something all about mistakes, things to know before heading off to college, and along those lines. So those are things to look out for as well. So thank you all and have a great day.